I was with my ex for a while, but it ended and I learned that she'd gotten pregnant with our daughter. She was unwilling to co-parent, so to see my daughter we needed to have it out in court. I won equal custody, but within a year of that she was hardly ever around. Then she became pregnant and her son was born with no father in the picture. She wasn't stable and didn't give a crap about him at all. It got to the point where she was willing to drop him off with someone else, anyone else, and leave him. I told her I would raise him, but she decided I should pay to get him. This became another court battle. Ultimately, she was too unstable with him to keep him, so he became my son. I adopted him very soon after. I raised my kids alone, and I've done my best to give them a good life. They didn't see or hear from their mom for years. Now both are in their teens and she's back with 2 more children. She expected me to take in her other 2 kids, but I said no. I told her I wasn't going to start raising and being responsible for all the children she had. She didn't ask about my kids at all. She was just focused on the younger 2. She doesn't even want the same arrangement with them. She wants to raise them, but for me to act as a father and pay for them like they're mine. Now she's started to show up with her kids and push them on me. They've called me dad every time they see me and ask why I don't want them. I'm not sure how old they are. Both are younger than 8. I told my ex to stop using her kids that way and that I wouldn't change my mind. She didn't listen. The last time she showed up with them was at my son's sports game. Her kids came to sit by me and started calling me dad and saying they loved me. I decided that it had gone on too long and took them aside and told them that I wasn't their dad, and that their mom was mistaken and that I was sorry they'd been led to believe something that wasn't true. They got upset and my ex raged at me and told me it wasn't my place. She accused me of saying they weren't good enough since I stepped up and raised my son when he wasn't mine, and her younger kids shouldn't be any different. Am I the idiot? Not your place? Not your place? What the heck? Either you are their father and therefore get an equal say in what the children are told, and equal responsibility for the consequences, or you are not their father and therefore have no obligation to play along with her manipulative game. Not the idiot, and you need to get a restraining order against her and call CPS immediately. She is messing with their heads mentally and coaching them on what to say to you, as well as making them believe you, the father, don't want them. Get her toxic self away from you and your children, and call whoever you need to so those babies can get some help. How do people live like this? This person is just popping out babies and dropping them off like she bought a pizza. I'm sorry you've been put in this position. Strangely, their mom isn't pursuing their actual father to be a dad to them, but I suspect they're coming to you because you stepped up before, which is commendable, and your 2 children are so fortunate to have you. You must seem like an easy target to her. I hope she realizes that this behavior will traumatize her kids, and I hope you get some peace soon. She probably isn't doing this to her younger children's fathers because I'm betting their birth fathers are not good daddy material like OP is. They were probably fun party guys, and maybe she doesn't even know who their fathers are. But hey, OP did it before, he can do it again. What a terrible mother and person she is. She's trying to get you attached enough to agree to what she wants. I'm sorry, OP, she put you in this position. My male 57 daughter, 32, has been divorced thrice. She got married at 25 to the love of her life. I gave her $15,000 as help for the wedding. The marriage lasted 3 years. Then she married the love of her life when she was 30. I gave her $5,000 for a much smaller, more intimate wedding. The marriage lasted 1 year. She married the guy that got her pregnant while she was still married to her second husband. She and her third husband divorced before my grandson was 1. She has again met the love of her life and needs money for the wedding. I said I'd skip the wedding, but I'll help her with the next one. Now she's crying to her mother, calling me an idiot for not believing in her future. I've managed to stay married for 33 years. It's not that difficult. My wife wants me to make peace by giving her some money, but it's a waste. Am I the idiot for my bad attitude towards my daughter's relationship? Edit, I don't want to insult people when I say it's not that difficult, so I feel I should explain what I meant. I met my wife when she was married to a guy I worked with. He passed away in an industrial accident. I saw it happen. After the funeral, we became friends. 3 years later, we realized we cared for each other, so we started dating. We had our ups and downs and went for counseling when we went through a rough patch. We work hard at being there for each other. My wife is beautiful and probably had many opportunities to be unfaithful, but she chose to stay with me and work on our marriage. I saw all the young guys my age having fun and partying when I was using my wages to pay for my son's medical bills. I also chose to stay and work on my marriage. I'm trying to remember who said it, but it also applies to marriage. In war, everything is simple, but even the simplest things are difficult. Not the idiot. Was your comment callous? A bit, but that doesn't make it untrue. $20,000 over 3 weddings is fine. She can pay her own way now. This girl has had 3 weddings in 7 years. She needs to hear a harsh truth. My relationship with my car has lasted longer than all of the loves of her life combined times 2. My petty self would offer to pay for premarital counselling instead. Might be worth the expense. Your daughter's marriage success is directly proportional to the amount you contribute to her weddings, where 1 year equals $5,000. So if I'm right for her next marriage to last as long as your own, you need to invest $165,000. At age 32, she can pay for her own party. About your attitude towards her relationships, whether this one is the love of her life or the next in line divorce, she can still pay for her own party. It sounds like your daughter thinks you're an ATM though. So tell her to elope next time and the time after that, and I think your daughter likes the idea of a wedding more than staying married. More seriously, you're under no obligation to fund another party for her. Save the money for your grandkids' education and/or for their therapy, or just go on a vacation with the grandkids. My husband and I have 2 children, Danny, tween male, and Clarissa, young female. For 2 years now we've fostered children. Our families have been supportive. Last Christmas we had a long-term placement, Whitney. They were with us for 6 months at the time. My husband's family made sure to get her gifts if they were buying some for our bio children. Mine did the same, except for my mother. She got my kids really nice gifts, but Whitney got nothing. Whitney was a toddler, so she didn't notice, but it did rub me the wrong way. I talked with my mom, and she said she didn't think it'd matter, as Whitney would be going home soon. I told her in the future, of course, gifts for our kids aren't expected, but if she buys one, she has to buy one for everyone. Whitney was reunited with her parents 2 months later. Shortly after, we got our next placement, Samantha. She's a pre-tween. We don't know how much longer she'll be with us, but it does seem like reunification is on the horizon. Exciting for Samantha. My mom recently called me asking what the kids wanted for Christmas. She worded it just like that, not what do Danny and Clarissa, just the kids. I mentioned an idea for each child, including Samantha. She then said, but she's going home soon. I replied, yes, she will be with us through the holidays at a minimum, and she's old enough to understand that the other kids are receiving gifts and she's not. My mom kept arguing, and finally, I said I wouldn't accept gifts for Danny and Clarissa. If she shows up with gifts for them, they'll be sent back. My mom told me I was being spiteful. I said I couldn't control her buying gifts for Samantha, but she won't exclude her. My kids are not the type to expect gifts. They wouldn't notice if Grandma didn't get them anything. Another relative who usually goes all out was having a hard time last year and didn't get them anything. They didn't say a word, so I know this won't even faze them. This also isn't an issue of money on my mom's end. She admits she could afford to buy Samantha something. My husband is backing me up, but some of my relatives aren't. Am I the idiot? Edit. My mom comes in person to drop off gifts and she physically passes out the gifts, so it'd be obvious if I gave her a gift while my mom excluded her. Not the idiot, and what on earth is wrong with your mother? You have redefined your family, even if temporarily, with these children, and it's not on your mother to decide they're unworthy of care and respect. Instead, they should get equal treatment from family as if they were their own flesh and blood. Glad you turned out to be a thoughtful person, despite the mother you have. Here's the deal. Your mother does not approve of you fostering children. She feels it takes away from her grandchildren. I'm sure she thinks that giving them gifts and not giving any to the foster children will show them that they are more loved. I'm sure all the foster children will be going home soon in her mind. Danny and Clarissa really wouldn't notice if they got no Christmas gift from their own grandmother. What? Oh yeah, you are the idiot. So your kids can't get presents because you want your random foster kid to get a present too? That's messed up, especially when the foster kids aren't permanent. They leave. As a stepmom, no bios of my own, my family doesn't send gifts for the steps. My family aren't being idiots, they just don't have a connection. I think that if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't go the all or nothing route. Instead, I'd be more inclined to just add an extra gift so everyone is generally getting the same amount of things. Over a decade ago, my sister gave up custody of her 3 kids to their father. She had issues, could care less about her children at that point in her life, and wanted no responsibility to them whatsoever. So when her ex divorced her, she willingly signed away all parental rights and spiraled out of control. 3 years ago, she hit rock bottom, got her life together, remarried, and has a child. Since then, she's been trying her hardest to reconnect with her other children, with no success at all. None of them want anything to do with her. They've all blocked her on all communication avenues and made it very clear she's not welcome in their lives. The thing my family and sister didn't know is that I've been in their lives for a little over 5 years. One of them reached out to me wanting to reconnect with someone they remembered being kind to them from their mother's side of the family. And from there, I've become what I hope is a good uncle to them. I'm very friendly with my ex-brother-in-law, and I'll go and visit them at least twice a year for a week or two. At their request, I've kept this secret from my family, as many of them are just as stable as my sister is, unfortunately. Somehow my sister learned of this recently, and it all has broken loose. My family has turned on me, declaring me evil and the biggest idiot on the planet for not playing mediator and leaking information to them about the state of my sister's kids. My sister now believes I've been poisoning the well and ruining her chances at reconnecting with her kids. On the one hand, this was their wish. They didn't want my sister to know anything about them. On the other hand, I can see how much my sister hurts by the current situation. She loves them with all her heart and wants to make things right. So I've reached a moral dilemma. Even with what is going on, I have no plans to try and get my sister into contact with her disowned children. I'm going to respect their wishes until they decide otherwise. I will not attempt to convince them she's changed, as I feel that is not my battle to wage. Not the idiot. Your family wants someone to blame because they cannot face the reality that the relationship between your sister and her kids was irrevocably ruptured because of what she did, and there's no way she can get it back. Tell your family that the choice was never between you and your sister, it was between you in the kids' lives and nobody from their mother's side of the family in their lives. If these relatives of yours weren't so selfish, they would be grateful that you'd been in a position to make sure the kids were doing okay. Your sister and your family seem to focus on what your sister wants instead of what the kids need and deserve. Her feelings aren't the priority. Also, out of everyone in your family, those kids only reached out to you, and that breaks your heart. That you can't understand how it doesn't break theirs is exactly why they don't deserve those kids. Those kids didn't remember loving grandparents, cousins, or uncles and aunties. Only one person, you. So you aren't going to take advice from them, because they never did right by those kids and still aren't. So I, 23 male, and my girlfriend, Jen, 20, moved in together about 4 months ago. We know living together is harder than just dating, so we sat down and agreed on several things. Like, we're responsible for our own laundry. We also split chores on a rotation, like I'll clean the bathroom one week and she'll clean it the next week. We agreed if one person cooks or buys the food, the other person washes the dishes. We also agreed if we have friends over, the person who cooks doesn't do the dishes. This is because we don't have huge parties, our apartment is small, and we invite only a few friends, so there aren't a ton of dishes. Anyway, I like to cook and am better at it, so it just works out that I cook more often. Don't get me wrong, she cooks too, but much less. So this weekend we had her best friend and her boyfriend over and I cooked dinner. We ate and had a good time. Once dinner was over, I brought my plates and stuff to the sink and then returned to my seat. We were talking and having a good time. Then Jen got up and told the group she wanted to do the dishes before we headed out. Her best friend asked why I didn't help, and I answered because it was her job. I didn't think anything of it, and we eventually went out. Jen was acting off all week, and when I asked her what was wrong, she answered she wasn't feeling well. Today she came home and said we need to talk. She tells me that she doesn't want to do the dishes anymore and that my answer to her friend sucked. I almost didn't know what she was talking about because I didn't realize that I'd done anything wrong. Then I remembered the dinner and told her that what I said was true, it was my job to cook and hers to wash. She said I could have worded it differently. So now she refuses to wash the dishes. I said that's fine, she can cook and I'll wash the dishes. And she can post it all over her social media and tell her friends it's my job to wash dishes. I don't have a problem with that. She didn't like that answer either and stormed off to bed. This morning I made breakfast for both of us. She ate without saying anything, then left her dirty dishes in the sink and then went out. I guess she's serious about not washing the dishes again. Not the idiot. You could have been clearer and said, "It's her turn because I cooked." Pretty sure her friends ragged on her about what you said. And instead of just explaining it and moving on, she let it get to her. She doesn't want to do dishes anymore. That's just childish. I'd talk to her again and see if she's ready to have an adult conversation and act like one. I wouldn't cook for her anymore. She can do it all herself. You're not her mom or her maid. She can buy paper products and TV dinners then. It sounds like her friend told her that saying it's her job to do the dishes, it's a red flag pulled from some random list regardless of context. Now, being 20, she's struggling with the red flag and considering her life choices because that's what you're supposed to do in red flags world. You are the idiot. You made it sound like she's your maid. It's her job. That's a very dismissive thing to say. Thinking before you speak is a good rule in any relationship. She's hurt that you think so little of her. That may not be true, but it sounded like it when you said that. Apologize without any buts and move on.